Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Tony Rizzaro, and this is another episode of the world famous, the University Love, the best podcast in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you and I, we just call the show Online Marketing Moves, and we are coming to you live today. Ladies and gentlemen, today at the time of this recording, it is May the 11th, 2022. Today we are going to talk about something that's very important. Today we are going to talk about content creation and how crazy do you have to be to drum up some attention. Now, you don't have to really be crazy at all, but we're going some people creating content. Everybody and the brother, everybody and the mother, everybody's the content creator these days. It just depends on who you are, what you want to do, how outlandish you think you have to be. You don't have to be outlandish. You don't have to be an extremist. You don't have to be any of that stuff. You find the right niche, you find the right audience, you find something that you want to talk about, that you're good at talking about. Now, you don't necessarily have to be an expert at it, but as long as you like talking about it, you enjoy it, you have a passion for it. Maybe not even a passion, it's just something you like to do. Maybe it's something you want to explore, maybe it's something you want to talk about. You can create content, you can build a following, and you can make things happen. Now, the reason I say this is because last week I told you a guy on the internet, he died. His name was Kevin Samuels. He was one of these he was a relationship guru or expert, whatever you want to call it. I guess he was that. And apparently, because I've been married for 5 years now, I've been with my wife for longer than that. So I really don't, dating is not, so I don't watch dating shows, I don't watch dating videos. So, but apparently this guy, he would go live on Instagram or YouTube or something, and men, anybody would call into his show, and he would give them dating advice, And a lot of, not a lot of things, but anytime somebody goes viral, it's normally something that they say that's not approved by the masses. You know what I mean? So this guy, he would just say it like he thought, and women would get offended, people would get offended, and he gained a following here like 1 million people, but he died. But I was just bringing it up because there are plenty of people like this who build a following, through the content. And a lot of times it's like, I watched a video about Candace Owens last night, and I was just wanted to see what the video was. And she showed herself showing up to this lady's house. The lady is the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, And apparently, I guess Black Lives Matter people have been in hot water because they are accused of spending money on houses, spending money on security details, spending money on shenanigans and chicanery. But apparently, Candace Owens pulled up to one of the houses. I don't know which house. I didn't really study it that deep. But the lady from Black Lives Matter, she was freaking out on an Instagram stream, apparently, crying and whatnot. And I thought, I look at it from this perspective. You and I, we are running a business, correct? Correct. So for you, the one thing that I would advise, it doesn't matter if you want to learn how to gain a following, if you want to learn how to create content, if you want to learn, you can learn from anybody. It does not matter the political association. It does not matter the religion, association. Does not matter really. It doesn't even matter about the content they talk about. You want to sort of watch. You want to sort of, you don't have to sit there and watch every video, but see some of the things they do, some of the habits they have, some of the videos that they talk about. Do they go back to videos every week? Like what's the pattern? What's the sign? What's the dig into the math of the situation. Don't look at because a lot of people will say oh man, you watching the Candace Owens video. Yeah, it's not about her political association. It's not about her. I don't care about that. I don't care about Black Lives Matter. None of that stuff I was thinking when I was watching it. What I cared about was why are people watching this woman? Why do people watch her videos? Why do people follow her? Why does she have a following? And because, like the Kevin Samuels, he has a following because people wanted to hear what he was going to say next. It's like anticipation. It's like this guy will say anything to anybody. What will he say next? Who's going to call into the show? And one thing that I thought was like, why do people call into this show? Like, why? Like, if you claim he's a woman basher, a basher of women, like, why would you call into the show? It's like, it's one of those psychological things, you know what I mean? And so, once again, I was watching Candace Owens, and I'm like, why do people? I'm like, because people just assume. I'm a black man in America, and we all know if you live in America. If you don't live in America, then and you might not know, but most people assume that all black people are Democrats. Now, is this true? No, of course not. But we all know in order for people to get attention, they have to go to the extreme. Because one thing about this, if you are a lot of people realize that there's no middle sometimes when it comes to politics. You can't be one of these people that say, "Oh, I think." Well, if you want to get attention, I should say, let's put that caveat on it. If you want to get attention, you have to be really, really to the right or really to the left. And me being a black man in America, a lot of people just assume that you're black, you're going to be a Democrat, and Democrats assume that, Republicans I'm not going to call these people conservatives. Republicans assume that, but when you see because this is the move now, and this is the truth. If you're black and you say, "Hey man, I'm a conservative," and you start tweeting about Democrats and how Democrats are bad, Democrats are, kind of sneaky, Democrats are, elitist, like, you will get the attention that you seek. You will get a following, because there are quite a few black people who do not belong to the Democratic Party who are looking for a voice in the conservative realm, in the Republican, world, you know what I mean? And so this has helped her, build up a following. It has other people. And other people have been down this road, like the Larry Elders and all that. But I'm saying all that just to say they when it comes to politics, if you go against the grain, if you're a woman and you're like, I believe women should be in the kitchen, then you'll probably get attention. Good, bad, positive, negative. But the one thing that it won't be indifference. The kiss of death when it comes to your content creation is indifferent. If people don't care, then then that's kind of like, it's not good. You know what I mean? And so when you're creating content, you want to find a niche, or you want to find a right niche for you. Sub niche. Just don't be like, this podcast is about working out. Like, what kind of workouts are you doing? Are you keto diet? Are you vegan diet? Are you all meat diet? Are you all, hard-boiled egg diet? Like, what are you doing? Like, break it down some more, be like, hey, this podcast is about yoga. This podcast is about hot yoga. Boom. This YouTube channel is dedicated to hot yoga. Boom. This YouTube channel is dedicated to yoga, making you feel better. Boom, 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 boom. Like what angle do you want to go? Because you don't have to be Kevin Samuels. You don't have to be Candace Owens. You don't have to talk. You don't have to talk. You don't have to talk. You don't have to. In order to get attention, you don't have to be outrageous. You don't have to be outlandish. If you're gonna be in politics, you might want to put a little sugar in your cereal. You know what I mean? You might want to add a little flavor to it. But for the most part, if you're doing, let's say you're doing motivation, videos. You're not gonna be every video. You're not gonna be like. After a while, that would get old, and people would phase you out. You want to create content. You want to create a business that's sustainable. You don't want to. You don't want to be a. You don't want to be a person. Well, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I would rather have something sustainable and consistent for 20 years than a 3-year run of just being the hottest thing on the planet. I'd rather make $200,000 a year for 20 years than make, $3 million in 2 years and then sort of fizzle out. Like, where do you go from there? I'd rather be consistent, and I'd rather be every year. Hey, I know I'm gonna make $250,000. I'm known, but I'm not like super. I'm well known, but I'm not. I'm not at a Michael Jordan level. Like that's just me, because I'm kind of like that, and it just depends on the person. But I would say, because most people are not going to be. You can get a personality. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. You can have personality in your videos. You can have personality in your podcast. Like all means, please do. But you don't have to be. You don't have to be an extremist about it. You don't have to go. You don't have to go Bill O'Reilly. Like DEFCON 6 all the time. Like after a while, that kind of gets old. Like I enjoy Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, his book, and I enjoy some of his interviews. But after a while, like Robert Kiyosaki will tell you the financial doom and gloom is coming soon. Like all the time. It's like, all right, man, I get it, I got it. Thank you. And I don't watch as many videos as I used to, but I will always read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I will always, pick up a book of his, look at it, go through it. I will always give that part a chance. But his videos, YouTube channel, thanks but no thanks. You know what I mean? Like, because it's always the end of the world. It's always doom and gloom. And on the flip side, if you're always like, hey man, everything's great, everything is like, all right. I don't need Tony Robbins in my life every day. That's just me. But you definitely want to have a personality. You definitely want to give it to people. You definitely want to be, like, hey, you want to, you don't want to always be. I give an example, like I watch TNT. Sometimes I watch highlights of basketball. I don't watch basketball games, but I watch Inside the NBA. It's a TV show. It's a basketball wrap-up show. They wrap up the games. And they have Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kenny the Jet Smith, And even though I'm going to focus on Kenny Smith, because Shaq, he's a character all to himself. Charles Barkley, he's a character all to himself. Kenny Smith is a very good analyst. Kenny Smith rolls with the punches. Kenny Smith has personality. It's not on level 10 all the time like Charles Barkley and Shaq. But the guy's there. He's not a wallflower. He has an opinion. He states his opinion. He lets you know his opinion. He lets you know what he likes, what he don't like. he shows personality, but he doesn't have to be level 10 all the time. And people watch this show because they think Charles Barkley any moment is going to give you level 10 all the time. You know what I mean? And so that's that. You can be great, but you don't have to be like at a level 10 all the time. And Kenny Smith shows you that you can still have personality, do it in a different way, and not have to be, an extremist all the time. That's one thing that is you want to kind of watch out for, because you don't want to be. I'll give you another example. The same show. I remember Shaquille O'Neal. When he first started doing the show, he said they was like, I thought about the 6 weeks he was gonna try to light himself on fire to be to be on the show, and they laughed, and he's like, oh, I was trying to do too much, And it's like, you don't always have to be at that level, be consistent, be who you are, of course ratchet it up, but you don't have to ratchet up to level 10 all the time. You don't have to be super extremist all the time. You don't have to be like I told you, in the political world. It's just these days, to get attention, it's like the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, when he first ran his campaign 4 years ago. His first video got off, and he was like holding the gun, and he was like, I'm going to go round up some illegals. Yep, I just said that. And it was like, all right, man, that's cool and everything. And it got him the attention he was looking for, and he won the Republican governorship. He won the Republican ticket, and he became governor of Georgia. But now that he's settled into the office, he's done a fairly decent job, in my opinion. I watched some of his new video. I watched some of his new ads, for this campaign, and they're a lot different than the old ones. He doesn't need the attention now. He's been there. We all know who Brian Kemp is. We all know he's a competent governor. You know what I mean? And so he doesn't have to get your attention as he had it before, because he has already had your attention. And so sometimes, folks, people think, what can I do next to go to the extreme? Sometimes you don't need to go to the extreme. One of the most important things you can do when creating content is create content on a regular basis. You're going to say, hey, man, every Wednesday I'm coming out with a podcast. Every Wednesday, come out with a podcast. If you say, hey, man, Monday through Friday, we're going to do this daily, come out with a show Monday through Friday. Trust me, The more consistent you are, people will find you. The first month, I didn't even broadcast. I didn't tell anybody I had a podcast. The first 2 months, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't tell people I had a podcast. And now a year, 2 years later, however long later, we're over. How many downloads I got? It's over 7,500. It's over 10,000, something like that. I know it's quite a bit. It's more than what I thought. You know what I mean? Like, I've produced a lot of episodes, but the funny part is, the more that I do, the more that people discover me, they will go back to the old episodes. So the old episodes will always go up a notch because people will discover them. I have an episode now, I think it's about a business plan, and every week somebody downloads that episode. That must be one of the better episodes. I might actually go back and listen to it. It must be one of the better episodes. But every week somebody goes and finds that podcast, and that podcast has hit well over, triple digits for a download. And it's pretty good for a guy who doesn't advertise, so to say, the podcast as he should. And so consistency, being on time, saying, hey man, I'm gonna record this day, I'm gonna record that day, doing that, dropping every week. People will discover what you're doing, and of course you want to put some marketing behind it. But if you don't have the budget, or you don't really know in the beginning, then just keep producing the content, and people will find you. And then eventually you learn how to market. You learn how to sell yourself. You learn how to tell people, hey, I'm doing this podcast. Hey, you want to be a guest? Hey, you start learning. It's one of the best shows I can tell you. I can tell you this. The Seinfeld Chronicles was a TV show. It started off that way. The Seinfeld Chronicles. My man Jerry Seinfeld, one of the greatest TV shows of all time. That was a ratings nightmare, ladies and gentlemen. For the first 2 or 3 years, they was always on the fence. We don't know if they're gonna make it. They switched time slots, this, that, and the other. Finally, they set it on Thursday nights. The show was good from the word go, but the audience had to catch up. The audience caught up. The show became a success. The show became one of the greatest shows of all time. Just because you start off, nobody knows who you are, does not mean you're going to end up the same way, okay? So don't get discouraged. Don't get, oh man, ain't nobody listening, you know. I don't care if it's been a month. I don't care if it's been 6 months. I don't care if it's been 9 months. I don't care if it's been a year. Give yourself 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. The world is so cluttered now with content creators, you know. Hell, by just sticking around, just sticking to it, just keep doing it, you'll outlast 70% of the jokers will disappear anyway, you know what I mean? Or they'll be on a different podcast, they'll be on something else, you know what I mean? So for you, just keep going, keep striving. You don't have to be, like I said, you don't have to be an extremist. You don't have to say, you know, the most outrageous things. Listen, give your opinion. Don't be a wallflower. Give your opinion. Tell us how you feel. Tell us what you're thinking. You know, you don't have to say, I'm trying to think of something I've heard that was just sort of ridiculous, and it's just like, okay, but I can't think of anything. You don't have to go 0 to 1,000 all the time. You know, it's cool to go it's cool to get up to that level sometimes, but you don't have to do it all the time. There's no point. It gets old. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be a fad. You know, you don't want to be and I like this guy, but I remember he was the hottest thing back in the late '80s. My man Andrew Dice Clay, ladies and gentlemen, hickory dickory dock. But he was one of the best things back in the late '80s, early '90s. You know, but there was a clock for Hickory. There's a shelf life for nursery rhymes. You know, I'm more one of these people who think consistent money is better than flash in the pan money. So the views that you are listening to tonight are of my own. I want you to know that you might be happy with making the quick cash and disappearing, but I think being there consistently on a regular basis is a lot better. But that's just me, you know, because I'm trying to run a legit business around here. But anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that is it for the podcast. We will be back tomorrow with an all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. Remember, you don't have to be wacky, yeah. Okay, you can be consistent. You can give your opinions. You don't have to be Mr. Hot Take you don't have to be Skip Bayless all the time, okay? But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to be screaming A, okay? But ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll be back tomorrow with all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. But this is gonna be a level 100 outro. My name is Tony Lozano. Thank you for listening. And as